Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our narration, research, and information about 64th Peninsula Music Festival, which will take place in Door County Auditorium in Fish Creek, Wisconsin, in the summer, mainly in August 2016. My name is Victor Yampolsky, and I'm music director of this magnificent festival, which I conducted for 30 years and celebrated 30 years being there last summer, and very much looking forward to my year number 31. As I started last summer, I will continue a musical story of my own upbringing and dedicate some of the concerts to individuals who really shaped me up as a musician and as a conductor. So the first opening concert is dedicated to my professor of conducting, whose name was Nicolai Rabinovich. He was a professor of conducting in Leningrad Conservatory, and I studied with him starting 1968 until my departure from Soviet Union to the United States in 1973. Professor Rabinovich was a very unusual person because he was not only a wonderful conductor and musician, but he was also a wonderful educator and professor of music and conducting. And the most famous, brilliant, and renowned Soviet conductors considered him as a walking encyclopedia and never shied to call him up for very specific questions about any piece of music or any conducting problems or problems with style or even with bowings, although he was a pianist. He had this reputation of knowing everything and everything in music, especially in symphonic music and opera. In the classroom, he often played on the piano. He could play through entire operas without any scores. And he knew so much the symphonic repertoire that he simply played whatever his students brought to the lesson at the time. I'm going to talk about him in my pre-concert talks during the festival, but right now what I like to say that in memory of Professor Rabinovich, I decided to conduct pieces which he conducted when we met in Moscow, when he conducted Moscow Philharmonic Orchestra, and I was the violinist who played. So he conducted Schumann Manfred Overture and the Schumann Second Symphony. I supplemented it with a Mozart wonderful concerto in D minor, which will be played by Boris Slutsky, who is also immigrant from Moscow, who is now chairman of piano department at Peabody Conservatory of Music. I, of course, relate more to different generation of Slutskys. I knew his father very well, and so I think I lived long enough to see a little boy growing up, studying piano, and making wonderful career now, and developing wonderful reputation as a pedagogue, as he's now a main cornerstone in the Peabody Conservatory of Music, together with legendary Fleischer, who is now in his 80s. Anyway, so that is our opening concert. As I said, Schumann Manfred Overture, Mozart Piano Concerto in D minor with Boris Slutsky, and Symphony No. 2 by Schumann. Let's move on to second concert, which is also very unusual because we're going to have a composer in residence and his name is Richard Pryor. He is director of orchestras and professor of conducting and composition at Emory University in Atlanta. Richard sent me some of his works, and his third symphony I performed here 2 years ago with the university orchestra, and it became really a very successful piece of music, loved by the public and musicians. So I decided to look more into his newest works. And since he just created his new cello concerto for Matt Heimovitz, he sent me the score and a recording. And I thought that it would be wonderful and great to play this piece for our Door County public. However, I had my own preference with the cello soloist because I love Denise Djokic, who appeared with Peninsula Music Festival twice. So I called her and I said, would you mind, I'm going to send you score and recording of this new cello concerto. If you like it, I would be very happy to see you back in Door County, and we will invite the composer. And that is what's going to happen. And so Denise will play a little piece by Gabriel Fauré, his elegy for cello and orchestra, and then brand new concerto by Richard Pryor. And then I thought, what symphonic work would complement Richard Pryor and his style of composition and him being brought up in on British Isles? And I decided that it has to be Symphony No. 1 by Jean Sibelius. And so here we have this combination of Fauré, Richard Pryor, and Sibelius. I had very good luck conducting music of Sibelius in Door County, but as you know, years are running by with astronomical speed. So I realized that it's been so long since I conducted Symphony No. 1 by Sibelius, it's going to fit the bill just fine. Now let's move on to the third program, which traditionally we designate for slightly less serious music, light classics. Some of the concert goers or board members would brand it as a pops. I don't really think it is pops, but it is simply a symphonic concert without long and tragic symphony, without complications. And I'm going to bring very unusual guest artist whose name is Alexander Sevastian, who is also from Moscow, but he lives in Toronto, and he is a world famous virtuoso on accordion. So for the first time, we are going to feature virtuoso accordion. I call them actually a wizard of accordion with our orchestra, and he's going to appear in both half of the concert, playing one piece in the first half and then shorter pieces in the second half. And the whole scope of this music is more on the lighter side because we're going to play also overture by Massenet and Slavonic dances by Dvorak, and finish with Romanian Rhapsody by Georgianescu. Another feature of that concert is first emerging conductor whose name is Benjamin Ferrer. He is a young man who is starting to make wonderful career in central Pennsylvania. In addition to applying for this particular opening for young conductor, which is emerging conductors program at PMF, he also applied at Northwestern for a doctoral degree. And unbeknownst to him, I'm going to invite him. Anyway, we will see how it plays out, but I really like him very much. So he's going to conduct Slavonic dance by Dvorak in E minor. So that is our first week.